Hi, I'm Cram, and today we're going to take a look at Namco Bandai's Saber Interactive's Inversion, which is kind of like a Gears of War style cover shooter. And well, without further ado, let's go check out the review.
Line of duty. Caught in the crossfire of the endless gang wars or riots that were part of my daily life. But as a cop in Vanguard City, I was ready for it. Yeah, I was ready. I was one of the lucky people. I had a job, a wife, a child, a roof over my head. I could live within the specter of death if it meant leaving behind a legacy, a piece of me. But now I've got nothing.
Saber Interactive's Inversion arrives on console and PC and tells the tale of a world invaded by beings who have harnessed the power of gravity. You play as family man cop David Russell as you hunt for your missing daughter, who's likely to have been taken by the invading brutes who are doing unspeakable things to men and women. The game starts out fairly tame and could be described as a typical third-person action shooter. Davis and his sidekick enjoy some healthy banter during the opening, forging a distinct image of their characters, although as the invasion and the duo's predicaments get progressively worse, they reform themselves into more conventional action heroes. The gameplay is fairly solid, but bears a mighty resemblance to the Gears of War series, right down to small details like kicking in doors and the gun reticule. In fact, it's not a bad thing, and in many ways works well for a no-nonsense shooting gallery cover shooter gameplay. Things only start to differentiate from the Gears games once Inversion lives up to its namesake, with the use of the gravity-defying powers utilised with the Grappler Weapon. This tool enables objects to be lifted and used as weapons, but it's also handy when navigating the terrain and can be used to pull things down to open up pathways. The grappler is easy to use and is a mainstay of the combat, although there's some very impressive havoc physics where cover can be destroyed. The grappler does enable you to create a field of zero gravity which lifts dug-in foes from within cover and suspends them in the air. This makes for easy targets, which although not disabled, they can still shoot back at you, are much more inclined to soak up the bullets. There's several moves you can gain throughout the story, and once you're able to grapple solid objects and use them as ranged weapons, the gameplay takes a much more engaging turn and distances itself from the Gears comparisons. There's a fair number of uses for the gravity gameplay, and for the most part it works well, despite being a little fiddly to aim properly at times. Once you've got a good grasp of how it all works, then it's easy enough to put into practice, amidst the reasonable range of conventional weapons on offer. There are some odd moments where you'll find the perspective changes due to the gravitational fields, but these sort of add a bit of character to the largely dull and uninspiring levels. Inversion offers a reasonable challenge, although at times if the wrong moves are performed or you don't do something exactly as required, you'll be killed. Sometimes this can be frustrating, but due to plentiful checkpoints doesn't become too much of an issue, rather an exercise in trial and error gaming. From time to time you'll come across a mini-boss character or two and will have to adapt tactics to get the drop on these foes, just like in any other game. Inversion offers some impressive graphics, which incorporates neat lighting and the aforementioned havoc physics, which are well done and at times quite impressive. Sadly, the levels themselves, whilst gritty and demolished to represent the fallen city, remain lacking and can feel a bit repetitive. As you progress through the story, you'll visit more areas, but it takes a while before these changes become apparent. Generally, the game runs smoothly, although some texture loading and pop-in do make themselves known occasionally. The audio is quite decent, offering some interesting voice acting and a pleasant gun sound effects, but nothing out of the ordinary or outstanding in any way. If you're looking for a deep and emotive musical score and meaningful dialogue, you're not really going to find it here, bar the odd moment here and there. Inversion offers a reasonable campaign, but not something that's going to last long for the more tenacious gamers, although it can be played in co-op. There are several difficulties, Gears of War style horde mode that can also be played solo or with friends and extends the length of the solo offering. As for the multiplayer, there are several modes to toy with over Xbox Live or PSN, which offer some interesting takes on familiar themes, Inversion style, but sadly it's doubtful these are going to hold much interest other than the occasional die-hard players. Inversion is a decent offering that's bold on looks, dynamic with its impressive physics engine, and contains a predictable but engaging plot that's well worth seeing through to its conclusion. Davis is a likeable hero, but much like the rest of the game, remains on the generic side more than anything. The gameplay is solid and easy to pick up and play, despite some fiddly moments when the gravitational forces are used. Inversion is very much Gears of War with force powers, and for the most part has its own identity with the gravity. However, due to a lack of proper direction, too many stop and start moments in the gameplay, and generic charms make the game feel a bit empty and lacking in true character and depth. If you're after a cover shooter and have an itchy trigger finger for shooting up human foes rather than aliens, then Inversion is well worth a look. However, in reality, a rental is probably the more feasible option unless you really dig the prospect of gravitational combat in your on and offline playing. Inversion scores a slightly above average 6.5 out of 10.